Good morning students. Today I will be discussing the first topic in head and neck, that is scalp. Scalp is the soft tissue which covers the cranial vault or calvaria of the skull. The scalp can be discussed under the following headings. First, extent of the scalp, structures or the layers of the scalp. The scalp consists of 5 layers from superficial to deep. The first layer is skin. Second layer is connective tissue, also called as superficial fascia. The third layer, aponeurosis, which consists of the occipitofrontalis muscle and its aponeurosis. Fourth layer of the scalp is loose areolar tissue. Fifth layer of the scalp is pericranium. Once you discuss the structures or the layers of the scalp, we should talk about the blood supply of the scalp. The blood supply of the scalp can be discussed under arterial supply. Followed by arterial supply is the venous drainage. Followed by the blood supply, we should talk about the nerve supply of the scalp. Then comes lymphatic drainage of the scalp, and the last is applied anatomy. Extent of the scalp. Anteriorly it is formed by supraorbital margin. Supraorbital margin, it is formed by frontal bone. At the junction of medial 1/3 and lateral 2/3, it bears supraorbital notch which transmits supraorbital nerves and vessels. Posterior limit of the scalp, it is formed by external occipital protuberance. External occipital protuberance is a median bony projection midway between the lambda and foramen magnum. Arching bilaterally from the external occipital protuberance, we are going to see the superior nuchal lines. So, posterior limit of the scalp is external occipital protuberance and superior nuchal lines. On each side of the scalp lies the zygomatic arch and superior temporal lines. Superior temporal lines and the zygomatic arch is the lateral or on each side of the boundary. Structure of the scalp. The scalp consists of 5 layers from superficial to deep: skin, connective tissue, aponeurotic layer. The fourth is loose areolar tissue, and the fifth is pericranium. The scalp can be memorized by a mnemonic SCALP. S stands for skin, C for connective tissue, A for aponeurosis, L for loose areolar tissue, P for pericranium. The first 3 layers of the scalp, that is skin, connective tissue, aponeurosis, are intimately related or connected to each other. They are going to meet, they are going to move as a single unit. First layer of the scalp, skin. The skin is thick and provided with numerous hair. Being hairy, it contains maximum number of hair follicles and sebaceous gland. The skin is adherent to the epicranial aponeurosis to the dense superficial fascia. Scalp is a common site for the formation of sebaceous cyst. Coming to the second layer, connective tissue. It is composed of close network of fibrofatty tissue, and it connects firmly the skin and underlying gallia aponeurotica and epicranial muscle. Superficial fascia is more fibrous and dense in the center than at the periphery of the head. Connective tissue contains the large blood vessels and nerves. It forms the proper media for the passage of nerves and vessels. Coming to the third layer, aponeurosis, it is also called as gallia aponeurotica. It contains the occipitofrontalis muscle and epicranial aponeurosis. The third layer of the scalp is aponeurosis. It is also called as Gallia aponeurotica, which consists of the occipitofrontalis muscle. The occipitofrontalis muscle is going to have two bellies, frontal belly and occipital belly. Both the frontal belly and occipital belly are united by epicranial aponeurosis. Now we will discuss about frontal belly. What is the origin of the frontal belly? The origin of the frontal belly, it is not going to have the bony origin. Origin is going to come from the skin and subcutaneous tissue above the eyebrows and the root of the nose. The muscle fibers of the frontalis muscle, they are directed backwards. They are going to insert into the epicranial aponeurosis in front of the coronal suture. The two frontal bellies are large. They are united by means of median raphe. Coming to the occipital belly. The occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis muscle are small and separate. Origin of the occipital belly, it is going to arise from the lateral 2/3 of the superior nuchal lines and mastoid process. The muscle fibers, they are going to insert into the epicranial aponeurosis. The frontal belly of the occipitofrontalis, it is supplied by temporal branch of the facial nerve. The occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis, it is supplied by posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve. Once you discuss about origin and insertion, now supply, we should know the action of frontal belly and occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis. Alternate contraction of the frontal belly and occipital belly, it is going to move the scalp forwards and backwards. Acting from the above, the frontal belly raises the eyebrows as in surprise. Acting from behind, the frontal belly produces the horizontal wrinkles on the forehead. Epicranial aponeurosis is a fibrous sheath which connects the frontal belly and occipital belly. Epicranial aponeurosis, it is freely movable on the pericranium. This epicranial aponeurosis, anteriorly it receives the insertion of frontal belly of the occipitofrontalis. Posteriorly it receives the insertion of occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis, external occipital protuberance and superior nuchal lines. On each side, epicranial aponeurosis, it is limited by superior temporal lines and zygomatic arch. Now coming to the fourth layer, loose connective tissue. It is also called loose connective tissue. It contains the loose areolar tissue. Now we should know what are the extensions of the loose subaponeurotic tissue or the loose areolar tissue. If we trace anteriorly, the loose connective tissue, anteriorly it is going to extend into the eyelids. Posteriorly it is going to extend into the superior nuchal lines and the highest nuchal lines. If we trace the loose connective tissue on each side, it is going to continuous with the superior temporal line. We should know the importance of the loose connective tissue. In the loose connective tissue, we are going to see the emissary veins are present in the loose connective tissue. These emissary veins, they are going to connect the extracranial veins with the intracranial dural venous sinus. If any infection is there, if any pus collection is there in the loose connective tissue, because of the emissary veins, the infection can spread into intracranial dural venous sinus by emissary vein. If any collection of the blood in the loose connective tissue due to the sudden blow on the skull produces the swelling, it affects the whole dome of the diaphragm. That condition is called as black eye. Fifth layer is pericranium. It is also called as outer periosteum of the skull. It is loosely adherent to the surface of the bone. It is firmly adherent to the sutures, where the sutural ligaments binds the pericranium to the endocranium. Blood supply of the scalp can be discussed under arterial supply and venous drainage. Let us discuss about the arterial supply of the scalp. The scalp has a rich blood supply. 5 set of arteries supply the scalp on each side. Out of 5 set of arteries, 3 arteries they are going to lie in front of the auricle. In the diagram you can see this is the auricle. In front of the auricle we can see the 3 arteries are going to lie in front of the auricle. Supratrochlear artery, supraorbital artery, superficial temporal artery. Behind the auricle we are going to see 2 more arteries, posterior auricular artery and occipital artery. Coming to the first artery, supratrochlear artery. The supratrochlear artery enters the scalp around the supraorbital margin, 1 finger breadth away from the median plane. Here you can see this is the median plane. A finger breadth away from the median plane we are going to see the supratrochlear artery. Second, supraorbital artery. Supraorbital artery enters the scalp by passing to the supraorbital notch or the foramen. Supratrochlear artery and supraorbital artery, these are the branches coming from ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery, it is the intern branch coming from internal carotid artery. Third artery is the superficial temporal artery. The superficial temporal artery, it is the terminal branch of external carotid artery. The superficial temporal artery, it is going to ascend in front of zygoma. After ascending in front of the zygoma, it is going to divide into 2 branches, anterior branch and posterior branch. Now coming to the arteries which are going to lie behind the auricle. Behind the auricle we are going to see posterior auricular artery. Here you can see posterior auricular artery, it is going to lie behind the root of ear. Occipital artery. Occipital artery, it is going to enter into the scalp midway between the auricle and external occipital protuberance. Both the posterior auricular artery and occipital artery, these are the branches coming from external carotid artery. Now we will discuss about the venous drainage of the scalp. The veins of the scalp accompany the arteries. Supratrochlear vein and supraorbital vein, they are going to unite at the medial angle of the eye. It is going to form the angular vein. This angular vein, it is going to descend downwards. It is going to form the facial vein. Superficial temporal vein descend downwards in front of the tragus, enters the parotid gland, unites with the maxillary vein and forms the retromandibular vein. The retromandibular vein, if we trace downwards, it is going to divide into anterior division and posterior division of the retromandibular vein. The anterior division of the retromandibular vein joins with the facial vein and forms common facial vein. This common facial vein drains into internal jugular vein. Now coming to the posterior division of the retromandibular vein, joins with the posterior auricular vein. It is going to joins with the posterior division of the retromandibular vein and posterior auricular vein. It is going to form the external jugular vein. The external jugular vein, it is going to descend downwards. It is going to drain into subclavian vein. Occipital vein finally terminates into suboccipital venous plexus. Parietal emissary veins passes to the parietal foramen, to the superior sagittal sinus. Like the parietal emissary vein, mastoid emissary vein passes to the mastoid foramen and drains into sigmoid sinus. Now we will discuss the nerves of the scalp. The scalp is supplied by the 10 nerves on each side. Out of the 10 nerves, 5 nerves are present in front of the auricle and 5 are present behind the auricle. Now coming to the what are the nerves which are present in front of the auricle? Out of the 5 nerves which are present in front of the auricle, 4 sensory nerves are present. Now I will tell the 4 sensory nerves which are going to supply the scalp. Supratrochlear nerve, supraorbital nerve, zygomaticotemporal nerve and auriculotemporal nerve or auriculotemporal branch. Coming to the first nerve, supratrochlear nerve, it is mainly sensory. It is a branch of frontal nerve. It is derived from ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. Coming to the second one, supraorbital, it is the sensory. It is a branch of frontal nerve. It is derived from ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. Coming to the third sensory nerve, zygomaticotemporal, it is also sensory. It is a branch of zygomatic nerve. The zygomatic nerve, it is an intern branch of maxillary division of trigeminal nerve. Coming to the fourth sensory nerve which is going to lie in front of the auricle, that is auriculotemporal nerve. It is a sensory. It is a branch coming from mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. These are the 4 sensory nerves which are going to lie in front of the auricle. Now coming to the motor nerve which is going to lie in front of the auricle, that is the temporal branch of the facial nerve. It is going to supply frontal belly of occipitofrontalis muscle. Behind the auricle, 4 sensory nerves are present and 1 motor nerve is present. Now we will discuss about the motor nerve which is going to lie behind the auricle. Posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve, it is going to supply the occipital belly of fronto-occipitalis muscle. Now coming to the sensory nerves which are going to lie behind the auricle, that is posterior branch of the greater auricular nerve, lesser occipital nerve, greater occipital nerve and third occipital nerve. This is one more picture showing the 4 sensory nerves behind the auricle. Greater occipital nerve, it is derived from the cervical plexus. It is derived from dorsal rami of C2. One more sensory nerve which is going to lie behind the auricle is the lesser occipital nerve. It is derived from dorsal rami of C2. One more sensory nerve is the third occipital nerve. It is also derived from the cervical plexus from the dorsal rami of C2. One more sensory nerve, that is the posterior division of greater auricular nerve. It is derived from cervical plexus, that is the dorsal rami of C2 and C3. Now we will discuss about the applied anatomy. Under applied anatomy, we should know about what is meant by sebaceous cyst, what is the dangerous area of the scalp, what is meant by black eye, what is meant by cephalohematoma, which layers of the scalps are considered as the surgical layers of the scalp. It is also called as scalp proper. The last one, why we should know the reason why the wounds of the scalp bleed profusely. This diagram depicts the sebaceous cyst, that is bilateral sebaceous cyst formation. As you know, the skin of the scalp is provided with numerous hair follicles and sebaceous gland. Because of the abundance of the sebaceous gland which are present in the skin of the scalp, it is a common site for the formation of sebaceous cyst. As you can see, these are the sebaceous cysts which are going to present in the scalp. The second applied anatomy of the scalp is dangerous area of the scalp. You know, in the scalp 5 layers are present. It can be memorized by mnemonic SCALP. That the fourth layer of the scalp, that is the loose areolar tissue, it is considered as the dangerous area of the scalp. We should know the reason why it is called as a dangerous area of the scalp. The reason is that the emissary veins are present in the loose areolar tissue. These emissary veins, they are going to connect the extracranial veins with the intracranial dural venous sinus. Suppose if any infection is there in the fourth layer of the scalp, thus the spread of infection can be spread to the by means of emissary veins to the intracranial dural venous sinus. Now we'll discuss about the black eye applied anatomy. This picture depicts the black eye. The black eye is the collection of the blood and fluid in the loose areolar tissue due to the blow on the skull, produces the generalized swelling affecting the whole dome of the skull, but the blood and the fluid cannot pass either into the temporal or occipital region because of the bony attachment of the occipitofrontalis muscle. However, the fluid and the blood collected in the fourth layer of the scalp track forwards into the eyelids because the occipitofrontalis muscle has no bony attachment anteriorly. Blood and the fluid gravitates into the eyelids. That condition is called as black eye. We should know what is meant by cephalohematoma. Sometimes after difficult childbirth or parturition, bleeding occurs between the pericranium and calvaria over the parietal bone. The blood gets trapped in this area. That condition is called as cephalohematoma. We should know what is meant by surgical layers of the scalp or scalp proper. The first 3 layers of the scalp, that is skin, connective tissue and aponeurosis layer, are firmly adherent to each other and cannot be separated from each other. These 3 layers are considered as surgical layers of scalp. Wounds of the scalp bleed profusely because the vessels are prevented from retracting by fibrous fascia. Bleeding can be arrested by applying pressure at the site of injury by a tight cotton bandage against the bone. This marks the end of the scalp. Hope you understood the class.